Hello and welcome to the very first Make It Super Assembly live from Dundonald High School. BBC Make It is a brand new campaign to help you be the best you can be, whether in school, in work, keeping you motivated or following your passion. It all kicks off right now with the biggest school assembly in Northern Ireland. We're joined by pupils from Dundonald High School and from Ashfield Boys School in Belfast. For our first Super Assembly, we have a man who's achieved a lot in his life, but you probably know him best as one of Irish League football's most successful managers of all time. Please welcome David Jeffrey.
Thank you very much. Well, ladies and gentlemen and teachers and whatever else, I'm going to take the jacket off so we'll get rid of all of the formalities. And this is an age thing, you've got to wear glasses now. Nightmare, not good. Hello and good morning. Never ever did I think or imagine I would be back at my old school doing Super Assembly. Although back in the day, it was actually called Dundonald Boys High School. I think it's a welcome change that we've got some young ladies here as well. We would have maybe liked the young ladies back in those days, but it was Dundonald Boys High School. And that was nearly 40 years ago. Can you believe that? I know what you're thinking. David, you don't look that old. Is that the truth? You're smiling. Yes, I am that old. What I want to do today is for us to engage with one another. I want to tell you parts of my life, things that have gone well, things that haven't gone so well, and maybe out of my experiences, hopefully they'll be of some help and some encouragement to you. Now, I have worked very, very hard to combine careers in the caring services. I trained as a youth and community worker, and I'm now a senior social worker. But I've also worked very, very hard to also involve football. Now, there was a time when all I ever wanted to do was play football. Nothing but that. I wanted to play for Manchester United. I'll tell you how bad I was. I lived in the Grantia Road. And beside us, we had McDowell's Field. And I used to get two jumpers out, and I used to kick the ball, and then I used to sprint as quickly as I could to try and save the ball. I used to play football matches on my own. I just loved the game of football. And I had in my head, maybe some of you might have heard of George Best. He was the greatest player ever to walk this earth. And he was my idol, and I wanted to go and play Manchester United just like George Best. And I remember in P7, you still do P1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6? Thank goodness for that. Good. I remember in P7, I supposedly got into the top class. The top class, so I would have a better chance of getting my 11 plus, or I think it's now the transfer test. And I failed and failed miserably. But I didn't care, because I was coming to Dundonald Boys High School. And you know what they had? Brilliant football teams. Absolutely brilliant football teams. And this brings me to something where it's so good to see the men from Ashfield, because see, back in the day, we were better in Ashfield, so we were. That's all I'm saying to you. Dundonald Boys High were better than Ashfield, and I didn't mind at all coming here. I wanted to come here because of the football. And I had a second passion as well, and that was music, and I love playing the flute. Tell me, is there any flute players in here? Impressed, respect. I love playing the flute. Really love it. I actually got to grade 8 in the concert flute, and I play in a part band called Ballykeil Conservative Flute Band. Some of you might have seen a programme some days back. You see, in terms of schoolwork, but I had no interest. Absolutely no interest whatsoever. And I'm going to fast forward. I said that my dream was to play for Manchester United, and I did. I did. Who are the 14-year-olds in here? Who's 14? Put your hands up, let me see. 14, okay. At 14, at your age, gentlemen, I went across in trial with Manchester United, and they signed me on what they call associate schoolboy terms. When I was 15, but who's 15 in here? Stick your hands up. Thank you. At 15, my mother and father went across and negotiated on my behalf, and I was promised an apprenticeship contract and a 3-year professional contract. And the manager at the time, Dave Sexton, said, Mr. Jeffrey, at the end of your son's 3rd year, we will be talking again, and your son will be in the first team squad. And that was it. Now, the one thing about my mother, and this is going to give you an example about the trouble I got myself into in school, and please don't recommend what I'm going to tell you now. My mother's still going to give off to me. We were doing mock, we had their GCEs were there. They're now GCSEs, are they? Now. Anyway, we had the mocks coming up, and my mum was unreal. David, if you don't get decent marks in these mocks, you're not going. I'm telling you now. And I'm sort of saying to Mummy, wise up. Manchester United, apprenticeship, 3-year. You're not going. Understand me, you're not going. So I thought, right, I better try and knuckle down. And to tell you the truth, man, I had no interest in school. I really had no interest. At this stage, I'd actually moved from Dundonald Boys High over to Sullivan. And I'm going to tell you this, and this will make sense later on. In that particular year, I played rugby. I love sport, played rugby, but I got delayed concussion. Now, delayed concussion is when you get a crack to the head, and afterwards you feel nauseous and you feel sick, and you're not too good, and you can't do anything for a couple of days. So I knew all about that. That isn't going to make any sense to you right now, but it will make sense later on. Fast forward the story very, very quickly. Very quickly. And we were coming up to our mocks. I hadn't done any studying whatsoever, and I thought, see if I don't get good marks here. My mum is going to let me go. End of story. I am stuffed. What am I going to do? I went to church on the Sunday evening, went to Christian Endeavour after church. We had these massive big doors in our church where at times they would have swung back and hit you in the head. So when everybody had gone into our youth group, I went down to the loos, banged my head against the wall. They went into the Christian Endeavour as if I had a real crack to the head. You probably think I'm off a tree here. Gentlemen, I was desperate. I'm talking mega, mega, mega desperate. My mum is a fierce lady. So we went into Christian Endeavour. My brother was there. He authenticated the story. Yes, when we went home that night, yes, Mummy, David did bang his head. He got an awful crack, Mum. You want to see the head. It was really, really sore. You know what those doors are like? The plan was set. The plan was set. I woke next morning. Deep intake the breath. Mum, my head, it's really hurting me. It's really, really hurting me, and I feel it. Has any of you ever tried to pull a sickie? Oh, class. Well, please don't pull this one. And I says, Mum, she says, get here. There's 2 Anadin, get to school. Get to school. Arrived at school, 9 o'clock. Exam was at 9:30. 9:30. I thought, if I go in here, history was I remember history was the first one. I knocked at the door. Please don't do this. I knocked at the receptionist's door and faked a faint. That's the truth. I faked a faint. There was immediate panic. Immediate panic. Everyone ran, oh, boy down, boy fainted, boy fainted. Here. They took me round to Nurse Atchison. Nurse Atchison got on to the hospital. Ambulance was set. David Jeffrey was in the Ulster Hospital, and he didn't have to do his mock O-levels. True story. True story. That's the trouble I got myself into because I hadn't worked, I hadn't studied. There was the threat of me not doing well. I only wanted to play football, and that was me. Here was the big thing. And this is the bit about United. Ultimately, I wasn't good enough to make it. My footballing ability didn't allow me to play at the highest level. And I will never forget, the manager's a man called Ron Atkinson. And I suppose football managers are not known for their sensitivity. But he called me in at the end of the 3rd year of my contract. The first 2 years had gone very well. I'd played for the United youth team, for the Northern Ireland youth team. I was on the periphery of the reserve side, which was obviously only one side away from the first team. I was getting closer. But really, things didn't go well in my last year. And I remember at 19, and understand this, I was told that I wasn't good enough. I was told I wasn't good enough. And that was a crushing blow. I don't know if don't let anyone ever tell you you're not good enough. Don't ever let them tell you that. Now, he had to tell me for the purposes of the contract, you weren't getting a new one. Here's the reason why you're not good enough. The fact was, it wasn't that I wasn't not good enough, but to get to that level, I didn't have that level of ability. I didn't have the talent or the ability to play full-time football. But I could still play football. And I returned home and I joined Linfield. Round of applause. Thank you very much indeed. Glentoran supporters, I see that you didn't applaud. here was the thing that kicked in then. How much do you think I was paid at Linfield when I first came home? A week. Random one. Throw a number out. Go ahead. That isn't too bad, actually, young man. It was actually, would you believe, what's your name? Jay. It was actually £12 a week. If you're in that was your basic wage. If you're in the first team, you got an extra 8. And then if you won, you got another 8 after that. So we had the potential to earn £28 a week. But shock, horror. My father said, David, you're a part-time footballer. You're going to have to get a job. I went, what? You're going to have to get a job, son? I bet, Dad, I play football. I used to have hair, actually, by the way, as well. I was actually rather attractive and handsome way back in the day. And I thought, wise up, Dad, wise up. He said, you're going to have to get a job, son. You're going to have to get a job. And I suddenly thought, what on earth am I going to do? What on earth am I going to do? Because I actually had left school. You'd be maybe reasonably impressed with this. I left school at 16 with 5 GCEs. I had 3 Bs and 2 Cs. I had 2 Cs in music. And then English, geography, and would you believe, Latin. I did maths, but when I was at Manchester United, I actually had gone back and reset my maths. I got a U. Do you know what U is? Ungraded. The lowest you could get. So I had no trade. I was hopeless with my hands. I was now 18. I was too old to be an apprentice. To this day, I can't even wire a plug. So what was I going to do? And I remember at that stage feeling such regret. Such regret. Because here I'd reached a time in my life where I'd put all the eggs in one basket, wanted to be a footballer. That didn't happen. Come home playing part-time football, that was good. But the reality was I needed a job, and I had no control over that because I didn't have anything. In terms of, what am I going to do? And at that stage, it was, how do I go forward? And I thought, David, why did you not listen to people when you were younger? Why did you not say to them, work hard? And I'm not saying as well, it's not just all about the academic side, the school. It's about whether it's music, whether it's sport, whether it's something vocational. Why did I not work harder? Why did I miss that opportunity? Do you know what my first proper job was? I used to be a place in Corporation Street, and that's where they used to send the dole checks out. I worked as a casual clerical assistant. I used to write dole checks. That was my first proper job. First proper job. But while I was there, I also took time to think about what did I want to do. And it's funny how things work out. I believe very strongly that there's a path for us. And there was a Presbyterian minister who got in contact with me, heard that I was involved in some youth work when I was in England. Would I like to come out to New Mossley and do some work out there? And that happened to be a big sort of Linfield area. So out I went. I wanted to be a youth and community worker, but to do that I had to go back and get professionally trained. And to do that, I didn't have the qualifications to get me on the course. And I've actually written this down, and bear with me with this. It kept flooding back. I talked about regret. I talked about missed opportunity. David has ability, but could do much better and achieve more if he applied himself and worked harder. Does that ring a bell with anybody? Don't put your hands up. That was me. Could do much better. Well, in 1986, I then qualified as a youth and community worker because I wasn't letting my opportunity go again. I wasn't living with any more regrets. I worked with young people, from children, from toddlers, from kids your age. I worked with young unemployed men. And please don't think for 2 minutes, folks, I'm preaching at you. I'm not. I'm just giving you bits and pieces of my life. I worked with, a number of groups in the community. One was a group of unemployed young men who hadn't maybe achieved all that they could have done in school, who weren't able to get on to training programs, and who there was some money that the Education Board was basically mopping up money. And these young men, they were frustrated. At times they felt very hopeless. At times they felt useless. At times they felt down. And I wrote this down as well, that the highlight, this is taking me back, the highlight of their period was a fortnightly cheque from the Dole office. And this is a true quote. I remember a young man telling me, David, I look forward to my brew once a fortnight. I get a Chinese, I get a carry-out, I get 20 cigs, a couple of videos. By the way, videos then turn into DVDs, and then I think you download them now. You probably don't even know what videos are. But that was just, that was it. That was the highlight. And those young people, those young men just needed helped and encouraged and supported. And see a constant theme from these young men. Because I might have gone to here, but theirs was exactly the same. If only I had worked harder in school. If only I had worked harder in school. I'll be honest with you, I would be so frightened to come back at your age and go to school. I really would. See all the challenges and all the things that are around. I'm not exactly sure how I could cope or manage. And here's something which I want to pull back from my school days. Because I remember one of my friends who wanted to be the best at being the worst. He wanted to be the best at being the worst. And this is back very, very long days ago when you would have been caned if you'd done something wrong. And you know what he started one week? Who wants to have a caning competition? Who wants to have a caning competition? Crazy, madness. And his desire was, well, I'm going to be the worst, and everyone will think I'm on the money here. And there was a period that he got a wee bit of, it was actually, the story is it was caned 48 times in 1 week. And that was a school record. And he got praise and or respect in some ways. And in others used to think, what's that all about? I've got questions here for you. And the reason why I've told you this story is, who's in charge? Who's in charge? Do you do things because your mates tell you to do them or force you into doing them? Or are you going to take charge of your own life? Because I tell you now, adolescence, which is all where you're going through, and I'm not reading this from any book, I'm telling you exactly how it was for me. I used to think, how do other people see me? How do other people want me to be? And I never started thinking about, well, who am I? Who am I? And yes, I probably got away with things because I played football and I played rugby and I was decent at athletics. But who was in charge? Who's in charge of your life? Don't have to answer these questions out loud. And if someone had asked me these questions at your age, I would have thought they're totally off their tree. But you already know that because I faked a faint and I was in hospital for 4 days. So you already know that. Do you like yourself? Do you care for yourself? Do you love yourself? So why not be the best for yourself and give yourself a chance? I talked about regrets. I talked about missed opportunities. I talked then having to go back and get some exams so I could go and train as a youth and community worker. I then went back and trained as a social worker. And in 1993, at 31 years of age, I became a social worker and I qualified with a diploma in social work. And you know what got me through there? Is belief. Is belief. Belief in myself. I wasn't a great academic. I played part-time football. I played music. But I wanted to be the best I could be. And that's where God was so good and blessed me and helped me along that road. I'm finishing off here, and don't ever think you can't make it. Don't ever think that. And it may not, as I say, it may not be in academia. You maybe will be the best plumber, the best electrician, the best bricklayer, the best cook, the best hairdresser. You may be the best teacher. You may be a social worker. You may be a youth and community worker. You may be the best van driver. But you can be the best you can be. Every single one of you has an ability and a talent. I've been fortunate to have been blessed to achieve quite a bit in my 53 years. Strive to be the very best you can be. Don't accept from yourself anything less than 100%. Don't waste opportunities to learn. And as I said, remember to believe in yourself. I'm 53. I stood down as Linfield manager at the end of 2013-14 season. I'm very proud to be the longest serving manager in Linfield's history. I never planned to manage again, but I'm now back in the Irish League. I'm privileged to be with Ballymena United. My aim is to make them the best that they can be. And I continue to work as a full-time social worker down in Larne. I now work with older people, would you believe? I work with older people. In life, every day, and with God's help, I continue to strive to be the best I can be and to make it. I would urge you not to miss opportunities, not to waste them. Don't live with regret. Be the best you can be. And most of all, thank you very, very much indeed. It has been an absolute privilege being given this time with you. The behaviour and manners says an awful lot. I will finish this. Good manners cost absolutely nothing, and you've been a joy. Ladies and gentlemen, teachers all, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, David. We've got some questions from the floor for you. So the first one is from Reese from Dundonald High.
Yes. Did you know what job you wanted to do when you were at school?
Reese, I probably alluded to it already. I didn't. And I was one of those young people who, my friends, people would have said, well, what do you want to do and what do you want to do? And some of them come off with, they had all sorts of ideas and careers in their head. I didn't have a clue. And it was possibly only when I started doing youth and community work. And at that stage, I wanted to work with people, help them, and to serve them. And for many ways, it was like a vocational calling. And it was, what, 19, 20 before I knew. But at your age, Reese, I hadn't a clue.
Okay, next question's from Bennett from Ashfield Boys.
So in Northern Ireland, there are many job opportunities for graduates, but what opportunities do you think there are for young people who don't want to do the degree option?
I think that's an excellent question, because I think for too long we've talked about getting GCSEs, A-levels, going to university, and that's what life is all about. And to me, people have different talents in different areas. I do know that part of the programme will be looking at careers, alternative careers. One thing that I always thought should have been part and parcel of school life is you've got the academic side, where people want to go down that route, but there's also the vocational side. And in terms, what I'm particularly delighted is that we have got the reintroduction of apprenticeships, because they were there for a long time, then they disappeared. Now they seem to be coming back on again, because people are talented in different ways. So I know that the agenda in terms of the question, I don't know the answer to it in terms of all of the alternatives, because the people on the Make It programme will tell you all of that. I just do know that school life is much, much, much more than just exams, although I'm urging you to do the very best you can be and not miss opportunities as I did. But it's not just about that. You have a talent and you have an ability. Develop it to its full.
Okay, so the next question's from AJ in Dundonald High School. AJ?
I'm Michael.
Oh, Michael, sorry. Michael, go ahead.
If you could go back to school and give yourself some advice, what would it be?
Oh. Bear with me, Michael, 1 second. Bear with me 1 second. I would strive to be the very best my ability would allow. I would never accept from myself anything less than 100% effort. I would work harder and be more committed. That's the nice version. What I would have really done, Michael, is to say, what do I want to do? And I may not be sure about what I want to do, but I want to give myself the very, very best options. I think I would have liked to have been stronger myself in terms of my character. I think there are, not to go down and start to retell stories, but I think there are occasions I could have stood up and says, no, I'm not doing that. No, I'm not getting involved in that. No, I don't want to go there. So I would have wanted to be more myself. I think I definitely would have wanted to apply myself a bit more, to tell you the truth. And I also think I would have liked to enjoy school more. For a period, I didn't particularly like school because of all that it meant. And I think if I would go back this time round, then I would really want to enjoy school more. Hope that wasn't a poor answer.
Okay, do we have AJ with a question? Yeah, over there.
What were you like when you were at school, and did you pass your exams?
You've already heard. Passed some of them. AJ didn't pass them all. Actually, was over ambitious. Like at school, that's a really good question, AJ. At times I was myself. At times I wasn't. I was really into the sport. Loved rugby. Loved football. Loved the music. I thought I was a pretty okay bloke when I got to know people. It took me a wee while, AJ, to get to know people and to get to trust them. And I don't know why that was. The one thing that, and this is where I was very fortunate, two very supportive parents, mum and dad are still alive today. And one thing that they hammered on was about taking responsibility. And if I ever did anything wrong, I always owned up eventually. So that's what it was like at school.
Okay. I've got one more question from Curtis.
What was your greatest moment as a manager?
Oh, God, it is. Curtis, greatest moment. And this is actually a good way to finish up because this will keep Glentoran and Linfield supporters all happy. In 2005, probably some of you will not remember that, Glentoran beat Linfield to the league. There was an infamous day called Morgan Day. And we were so very, very tight, and if we'd maybe played the game out the way we should have done, we could have got through the day. However, Glentoran won the league that year. We had to go and play them in a Santanta Cup qualifying game. And on that particular night, when I went back to the Oval, when I came out onto the pitch, there was the Irish League trophy. Daydream Believer was on. Cheer up, David Jeffrey, oh what, you know the song. So all of that was playing, and I thought, gee whiz. However, we beat Glentoran quite convincingly that night, which was fine, to get into the final against a team called Shelburne. Shelburne had 26 full-time professionals, and everyone thought, well, sure, Linfield's going to go down there and get duffed. And we kept pushing to the players, believe in yourself, believe in yourself, believe in yourself. And you've asked me a brilliant question when it comes to belief. No one gave us a chance. There's not one chance. Because we were coming off the back, as I say, the disappointment of losing the league. We were going down to a full-time club who expected to absolutely chin us. And we won 2-0. And what pleased me is that we had over 2,000 Linfield supporters down that night. They behaved impeccably. We were well looked after. My players were brilliant. And I remember then, and you'll maybe understand this, I remember saying about Glentoran were champions of 6 counties. We were then champions of 32. And that made me very, very happy. All Ireland champions, absolutely fantastic. So in terms of football, that was the greatest night for us because we went and did something that people thought we could never do. And we only did it because we believed.
We have one more question coming from Malone College, from Rian from Malone College. What's your biggest disappointment and what did you learn from it? It's a big question.
I'll go down. Yes. The biggest, there's several disappointments, but it's probably the learning I want to talk about, is that in football, there was a time when football maybe dominated my life totally. And if we ever lost, it was like the end of the world. And that was it, the be-all and end-all. And it was something that maybe marked me out. While I still am very much a winner, what I did learn is that there's more to life than just football. And probably I want to finish with this. What is very important are friends and family, and surrounding yourself with good people. Surrounding yourself with good people. Last thing I'll say, I've been blessed with quite a bit of success. That is not down to me in any way, shape or form. The one thing I've concentrated on doing is always surrounding myself with good people. If you do that, you'll be a success and you will make it.
Thank you very much, David.
Thank you.
That's all we have time for today. Sorry if we didn't get your question answered. This programme will be available to watch online later today with lots of other resources on bbc.co.uk/makeit. Thank you very much to all the schools involved, especially Dundonald High School, who hosted us, and of course to David Jeffrey. Thank you very much.